closer with their communities, and it has three main components. The first, you just heard the president mention, which is to create credentialing and certification that incentivizes best practices. The second is to track excessive use of force complaints. And the third is to create co-responder programs to deal with mental health, homeless, and addiction issues. Well, joining us now to talk about this latest executive order is the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, Ohio's Republican Congressman Jim Jordan, who just attended that ceremony today. Congressman, welcome back.
Hey, Sean, good to be with you.
So, you know what I love about this is that it adds to the police, as opposed to all of these folks who keep saying defund them. It gives them the additional training that they need to make sure that we don't have an incident again like this. But do you think that what happened today is good enough, or does the president need to do more?
Well, no, it's a great start, and the president's exactly right. But the president said at his executive order signing that we are going to work with Senator Scott. We're going to work with the Congress. And go even further. Tim Scott's been working hard. We've been talking with Senator, with the White House, with the Justice Department, with our colleagues. We've been talking with everyone to try to put together legislation that is going to address the issue. Now, I always say, Sean, there are four kind of fundamental principles, four truths. What happened to George Floyd is a tragedy, should never have happened, and his family deserves swift justice. Second, protesting and exercising your First Amendment liberties. We've all done it. That is consistent with America. We're all for that. But there is a big difference between peaceful protest and rioting, violence, stealing, and the mayhem we've seen in the streets, and attacking of police officers, in some case killing police officers. Third, and I think this is maybe the most important, the vast, and you know this, Sean, the vast majority of police officers risk their lives every day. They do a great job on our behalf protecting our communities. And finally, the fourth principle, defunding the police is maybe the most insane public policy proposal I have ever heard. So within those four truths, we're trying to come up with the best possible policy, and the president's executive order is right on target in those three areas you described. Tim Scott's legislation will build on that. Let's hope the Democrats work with us and we can pass something that makes sense.
You just said something really interesting, and I know this seems kind of obvious to people, but it's not been the case. You said, I hope the Democrats work with us. What I liked about what the president did is he worked with law enforcement to make sure that what he was talking about actually made a difference. The bill that Nancy Pelosi's been crafting in the House, Congressman, she's been very clear. She has no police input. Don't you think that it's a mistake for the House Democrats not to engage with the police in trying to help figure out a solution?
No, I think it's totally a mistake. We should be focused on good public policy, but you're right about the politics. I just saw where Karen Bass, the sponsor of their legislation, is saying that defund the police is a terrible slogan. Well, it's what so many of your party believe in. Bill de Blasio, the mayor of our largest city, said he wants to defund the police. Mayor Garcetti in Los Angeles, our second largest city, said he wants to defund the police. And in Minneapolis, a super majority of the city council is actually for abolishing the police department. So they can say all they want, but that's where their party is. And what a contrast when you think about this election. President Trump, who has done what he said, President Trump, who is draining the swamp, and Joe Biden and the Democrats who are for defunding the police. What a contrast. So the American people see that for what it is. They want solutions. They want someone like Senator Scott leading this. I think he's doing a great job. Let's focus on that and good public policy, not this crazy idea of getting rid of police, for goodness sake. That's crazy.
You know what's interesting to me is the Democrats want to have it both ways. They want to appease the far left by talking about how they're going to defund, and then they run around and say exactly what you said, which is, oh, don't trust us. Defund the police doesn't mean defund the police. It means all these other things. But they don't want to get rid of the label because they know that the far left of their party likes that talking point. And so it's funny to me watch these guys try to thread the needle and say to one group, yes, defund the police, and then say to the other, trust us, that's not what it means.
Yeah, those three words, one simple sentence, defund the police, three words, doesn't mean what it says. I mean, come on. But that's today's left. Sean, understand how they started this Congress off. Their first big proposal this Congress was they were for abolishing ICE. Then it says, no, we don't want to abolish ICE, just we want to abolish and defund the whole Department of Homeland Security. And now they've taken this extremely radical position of defunding and abolishing police departments. It makes no sense. The American people understand it. and the American people do not want it to happen.
So, you know, the interesting thing about this whole debate was, you go back to the death of George Floyd, right? The president came out, immediately sent the DOJ and the FBI to investigate it, right? And then as this evolved, and the officer was charged within 4 days, they've upgraded the charges now into second-degree murder. But here's the thing that's fascinating. Law enforcement is a local issue. It's city councils, it's mayors, and all of these major cities, and the top 10 ones in terms of crime, according to Forbes magazine, are all run by Democrats. And yet it's the Republicans, specifically President Trump, that has drawn the ire of all of these folks when it's their own party that is controlling most of these cities where the problems are.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think the last time we checked, there was a Republican mayor in Minneapolis, was 1963. We looked at the city council makeup right now. There are 13 members of the city council, 12 Democrats, but the 13th one is not a Republican. The 13th one's in the Green Party. So, but somehow it's Republicans' fault. And yet this president, with the economic growth we had prior to the coronavirus, with his sentencing reform and prison reform legislation, has done so many things that help all Americans. All Americans, Americans in distressed neighborhoods, and Americans across the country, all Americans. And I like that. I think the country likes that, and they appreciate where the president is and where he wants to go with this executive order and where he wants to go with Senator Scott's legislation.
Great. Hey, Congressman, thank you for bringing us up to speed on what just happened, and thanks for your leadership on this issue in the Congress. I hope to have you back soon.
We will. Thanks, Sean.
All right, coming up, most presidential polls say that Joe Biden is leading President Trump. But is that true? We're bringing in a former deputy assistant to President Trump to talk about